We're going to move on to a slightly different system of beef production now. Andrew Laughton is our next speaker. He's a fourth-generation beef farmer based in Louth, Lincolnshire. He was the 2018 Farmers Weekly Beef Farmer of the Year, and they recognised him for his pioneering of a high-efficiency outdoor finishing system that prioritised animal health and welfare. His operation finishes approximately 6,000 cattle annually, using an innovative outdoor corral system on straw-bedded yards. This method significantly reduces health issues like pneumonia while maintaining low antibiotic use. Beyond the farm, Andrew is also a key industry voice. He served as chairman and board member of the National Beef Association and collaborates extensively with the AHDB and Nottingham University on sustainable beef research. And he's also a dedicated advocate of British farming and frequently hosts farm walks and industry meetings to share best practice. So, Andrew, we're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Good afternoon. It's an absolute privilege and honour to come and speak to you today, and especially as it gives me a chance to have a look around your beautiful countryside. I wish the weather had been a bit better, but there we go. We've had a great set of speakers. The bad news is it goes downhill from here, so I beg your pardon. So I'm Andrew Laughton. We farm at the foot of the Lincolnshire Wolds. The farm is just about 100 acres. Mum and Dad bought it in 1966 when I was a nipper. I know I don't look old enough, but that's the facts. It's been increasingly difficult to earn off 100 acres, so we've sort of concentrated on the beef cattle. So we've gone from the small, modest yard to, well, that. We've presently got around 2,500 cattle on site. We've also got another yard at Manby, but at the minute, that's an old redundant airfield, but at the minute we've got it mothballed. In our biggest year, as Keith said, we finished 6,000 cattle. We sold 120 every week, which I was sort of quite proud of that round number. Then came Horsegate and the subsequent crash in the price. We saw a 25% drop in the beef price, and I spat my dummy out. Never again am I going to put myself into that position. At that time, we were close on 4,000 cattle, and it hurt. It hurt badly. So we dropped the numbers to 36 cattle. We had 36 cattle left. And by hook or by crook, we built the numbers back up, and we got the opportunity to enter an integrated scheme. So we take calves at about 150 kilos from the dairy herd, predominantly now Angus sired. That is we started with Scott Beef. They've just sold out to Pickstocks and the OSI partnership. And we take them through to finish at about 620 or 40 kilos, somewhere there. So that's our Manby site. So we use these outdoor yards, plenty of straw. We're in a straw area. We can keep them well bedded, keep them clean. I don't like clipping cattle, it's dangerous. We manage the job with 4 staff, which keeps them busy. As I say, we use these outdoor yards, so the need for straw is quite big, so we bale 6,000 to 7,000 acres a year. People often ask me how cattle fare in these open yards all year round. Ventilation was mentioned earlier. What better ventilation can you have than that, sort of outdoors? People ask me about when it comes cold. Well, there's the beast from the east. The hair stood up a bit, but the cattle were as clean and as crisp, and they love that clean air. They also, what I call, benefit from the penguin effect. They shelter one another in these big yards. The weather doesn't usually last that long, except this last 4 days in Northern Ireland while I've been here. But they come out from the shelter and carry on eating. So we made a machine to bed these yards with. Carries 4 big bales at a time and spreads it in not long. I joke to people that we can spread straw faster than we can pay for it. Traditionally, we've fed a lot of co-products and byproducts. Sorry, I'm going through the straw bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we've got a bale collector there that gets them to the end of the field so we can cart them. Now I'm getting caught up with myself, I beg your pardon. So traditionally, we've fed a lot of co-products and byproducts in a TMR fashion. Lately, some of these co-products and byproducts have become more and more expensive. People think they're valuable, and they are to a point, but they're also a waste, and their quality can vary a little bit, availability varies a little bit. So this last year or two, we've used more barley and things like that in the ration because it's consistent and it's not that expensive compared. We've also rent 250 acres of grass, which we grazed for a few years, but we're in a TB hotspot. So last time we had to test twice, which in itself is bad enough, but the second test came in the midst of harvest, which you can imagine doesn't go down too well. So we're making silage, so that has sort of shifted the ration. And that has come in conjunction of the breed sort of shifting from the British Blue to the Anguses lately. So that forage-based system has just worked pretty well, and the Angus is needing a bit less to feed. So there's the feedstuffs, there's the TMR. So we've invested in a good handling system. Largely homemade, but it's safe. There's no point in making money or losing it if you're going to get killed whilst you do it. We use high-frequency electronic tags as management tags, and that's linked to a computer program that we've developed with a local specialist. So we've got all the details of the animal before us on the screen. I don't know whether you can see it, but in the right-hand panel there's all the details about the animal, its sex, date of birth, how old it is, breed, sire, where it's come from, number of treatments, how many days here. We've got all the knowledge to make a decision on that beast in front of us. We've also got the live weight gain, the overall live weight gain and the latest period. And this was just one, what I call a good doer. I think you can see he's 15 months and 15 days old at 732 kilos. So that shows me that it is possible. I'm not saying we can do it with them all. We don't average anything like that. But the fact that there are no animals that are performing like that says to me we need more. We need more in the herd that are doing that and upping that average. So the data that we've gathered has shifted my thinking quite significantly. It's enabled us to sort of analyse groups of cattle and indeed individual cattle. So here's some, I did backaways, but they show it pretty well. A group of British Blue heifers, 16, 17, 18 months old. Decent heifers, but at the bottom there, in the red circle, you can see they did 0.78 of a kilo. Useless. Another group, same sort of heifers, British Blue, 16, 17 months old, similar weight coming in, did practically double at 1.41 kilos a day. That gives me the information to say that the first farm I don't want any more. I would consider having some from the second farm again. The abattoir data also backs up what we're doing. So here our column is on the left there, the other two is a regional and a national stock beef average. So carcass weights are pretty much the same, but our age at slaughter of 516 days is probably a third less than the regional and national average at 807 and 955 days old. So that efficiency sort of equals profit. It also equals a lower carbon footprint because you're taking a third off their age. And carbon footprint is as Wesley said, is a proxy for efficiency and therefore profit. You know, so it all goes round and comes round. Whether we agree with the carbon argument when there's all these planes in the sky and cattle are killing the planet, I'm not necessarily a paid-up member of. That said, if we're being asked to reduce carbon and we can do it by being more efficient, to my mind, it's just a double whammy. But I then want to ask the question that if we're getting those cattle at a third less age and a third less carbon footprint, this is a bit provocative, but the supermarket has to offset a third less carbon. Can we monetize that for being efficient? So, just one to think about. Carbon footprint, as I say, we're a little over half the sector average. Our data collection gave rise to this chart. 2 bulls. I've redacted them because I don't want to upset anybody. And to be fair, it is very raw data. It's more the concept I want to get across. You can see that bull A is, male progeny is doing 1.56 kilos a day. Bull B is doing 1.16 kilos a day. So this is where there's a bit of audience participation. Would you get your calculator up on your phone, please? Come on, Ryan Law, get your calculator out. We've currently 2,476 cattle on feed. A bit of poetic license about bull A and bull P, but Ryan, can you tell me, with 2,476 cattle at 0.4 of a kilo, how many kilos a day is that, please? 990 kilos, a ton, a day. Just let that sink in a bit, a day. So would you multiply that by 365, please? So 361 tons extra live weight gain in the year betwixt bull A and bull B. Would you divide that by what, 620, 25 kilos for a finished beast? 578 cattle equivalent more for using bull A rather than bull B. 578. It's just, are you sure you got that right? Right. I've done it several times myself, but I still can't believe it. But 0.4 of a kilo, that's asking a bit, isn't it? Would you divide it by half? $2.89. Keep your phone in your hand. So that's 0.2 of a kilo. Divide it by 2 again, halve it again. 0.1 of a kilo, 144 cattle. Halve it again. 72 cattle with 0.05 of a kilo extra gain. So when people talk about minuscule gains, that's what that means. On our place, 72 cattle. But I hear okay, what about the smaller man with, I don't know, 80 cattle? Ryan, 80 times 0.05, if you will. Well, you know, do the sum for me. 0.05 of a kilo over 365 days and 80 cattle. Yeah, 4 cattle over 80. So, yes, the scale makes it bigger, but it's no less pertinent to however many cattle you're finishing. So, that 0.05 of a kilo, and that's maybe out of genetics, but then say I can manage a diet that bit better and find another 0.05. Maybe we can get that early life care, that colostrum that Mairead was talking about, get that right. You know, if those calves hit the ground right, let's say there's another 0.05. And then, with the use of data, selling cattle at what I call 12 o'clock, another 0.05. And by 12 o'clock, I mean, traditionally, your biggest ones are fit first. They've been doing 1.7 kilos a day. You sell them. But as my grandfather had said, he's the paying guest. He's performing, he's paying for his feed. Traditionally, it's that Worston that hangs around until June, and you've paid to keep him. In my mind, he wants to be out first. As soon as he's big enough to go, get him out, because he's not efficient, he's not paying for himself. That one that's performing, why not let him have another month if there's room in the spec to accommodate him? By that, I think if you got all the cattle sold at the right time, there's probably 0.05 of a kilo there. So all of a sudden, we're back to 0.2 of a kilo by these very marginal gains without, and you're not having to do anything radical to achieve that. And that, to me, is sort of quite massive. Just touching on that early life care that Mairead was talking around, that transition. When we get the reared calves come to us at about 140 or 50 kilos, and just for the record, I think they should be bigger, but you know, the rearers want them out sooner. But they've got layers of stress. They've got a lorry ride. They're mixed with others. New home, new water, new feed, new mate, you name it. The layers of stress, we're just piling it on. So that any layers of those stress we can take off, we do. So that transition, we keep the nuts in place so they can have nuts. We also introduce the TMR alongside it. And they transition at their own pace. That deep bed of straw you talked about, that they can nest in. We've pushed for the calves to be vaccinated 10 days or a fortnight before they come to us, so that they're covered in that period of stress. And I'm not saying it makes the world of difference, but it makes a world of difference to remove as many of those layers of stress as we possibly can. Sorry, I'm forgetting about doing the slides. So on to nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist, I'm just a farm boy. My father said that he wanted to see happy faces. To get happy faces, you need a happy rumen. And we've all seen some ad-lib barley-fed cattle on the edge of metabolic breakdown. They're suffering from acidiosis, either clinical or subclinical. Those papillae in the rumen are being burnt off. That digestive area is taken away. They're anything but a happy rumen. At the other end of the scale, we once fed some heifers nothing but potatoes. Again, not enough protein, so wholesaler called us in. Have a look at these quarters, he said. And they were as fat as mud. They really were. Not enough protein to sort of get your meat and not fat. So all this time we're learning in sort of getting this ration correct. And as I said, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just the farm boy who feeds the cattle. So we see things. So we talked about the transition. But while these calves are going through the growing phase, I want growth. I want skeletal growth. There's no point in fattening them just yet, because all you're going to get is a fat little beast. I just wanted to show that I've circled where we've got 3% straw and 8% straw, so there's a 5% difference, which isn't a great deal. But look what it does. The protein drops to 13.8 from 14.9. The energy drops from 12.5 to 12.06, so half a point. So quite minuscule differences in the ration can make quite a big difference to the sort of output of the ration, if you like, and therefore the output of the beast. So again, what I've learned from this is to analyse and check, double check, and keep that ration so you know it's right. We actually use a box on the mixer wagon now that can track the ingredients as they go in, and that's quite interesting. You can see how accurate the ration has been mixed, because that will have that 0.05 kilo a day that I've just been talking about. So I think that's sort of quite massive. Genetic progress. The pig industry and the poultry industry aren't subsidised. They've had to live and progress on productivity. There's nowhere else to hide. And courtesy of Genus, and they let me use this slide. This blew me away when I first saw it. So from 1962 to 2012, we've gone from 14 pigs a year up to 26. And bearing in mind now that's another 14 years forward, dare we venture that they've doubled the production? Going from 410 kilos of feed a pig, they've dropped it to 273. But in doing so, they've upped the lean to 45 kilos as against 34. That's progress. That is massive progress. And we've had scarce little of that in the beef industry, if we're dead honest. And that's the, 80% more pigs, a third less feed, a third more lean meat, half the manure to deal with. Trouble is now the manure's worth a bit. I'm wondering if they need to rethink that, but there we are. On that genetic progress, as well as these 0.05 of a kilo gains, MetaQuality did some work where they were weighing the feed intake of individual animals, and they found that between the best and worst within a breed, there was 40% difference in feed intake. 40%. Imagine being able to turn 4 out of 10 lorries around and tell them to go away. It's just mind-blowing. So those sort of quite minuscule gains over time add up to quite massive potential. And if I point you back to that animal at 15 months at 730 odd kilos or whatever it was, to me that says it's possible. Now then, we don't average that. Our average is somewhere around 1 1/4, 1 1/3, 1.3 kilos a day from reared calf to finish. As I say, I'm looking for that 0.05 and 0.05 and to get that up to 1.4. And that will be quite, quite massive. So pigs and poultry got to this by measuring data, taking data, looking at feed intakes, looking at food conversions. Some part of my message is data, data, data. Listen to the results that you're getting. It's very telling if you take notice and just delve into it a little bit further. I will accept one of the problems about measuring output in beef cattle is you've got to get them in and weigh them. And that in itself, I'm a little nervous of, because if you've got a gut full of 20 kilos and you weighed it 3 weeks ago, that can make a kilo difference in your live weight gain. So you've got to be very careful how you interpret it. To that end, we're just in the process of trying to develop a camera that can weigh the cattle in the yard visually. We're getting there, a long way to go, but the idea is if we can spot these trends and spot the non-doers, and just monitor those cattle in real time without having to upset them and get them in and weigh them, that will be quite useful. So I'll keep you posted on that one. Yeah, that's another one of the pig. Look at the difference. Amazing, isn't it? So, I've got a few questions for you. Is the Europe grid fit for purpose? Should farmers be paid on meat yield or quality? Should consumers be able to trade up to be assured of the quality? Will the livestock information programme give breeders a chance to make better decisions? I don't know whether you're getting the livestock information programme over here, but they're revamping the BCMS over with us, and it's going to be the answer to everything, apparently. Here's 2 quarters of beef. This is the point I'm making about the Europe grid. They're within half a kilo of carcass weight. Both are 3s. Within, 10 days age difference. Both British Blues, out of the same pen, had the same feed. But look at the difference. And to my mind, that difference should be taken account of. Something to think about. A question for you. Has any of you ever had a bad steak? Quiet. Come on, be honest. If you have a bad steak, hands up. Yeah. Now then, let's have a test of honesty. Have you ever produced a bad steak? Thank you, an honest chap. We've got to start listening to what the consumer wants. After all, the consumer pays our wages. My sort of final thought is that Johnny Burney, one of your countrymen, said it takes 12 weeks for a consumer to recover from a poor beef eating experience and consider buying beef again. 12 weeks. 4 bad steaks and it takes care of the year, more or less. How and why has this sort of happened? I've said in 2018, but we'll fast forward to 26. It's because Johnny said it in 2018. How many bad experiences before people stop buying beef altogether, given it's now becoming more expensive? We as farmers don't see it as perhaps a treat that the average consumer who pays, to have a steak on a Saturday night. They deserve to have something that will come back for next week, not in 12 weeks' time. So my questions to you is, what can we do about that as individual beef farmers, and moreover, what can we do about it as an industry? Thank you very much.